Imagine coming home from school and finding a cute girl, or guy, in a not so badly made Bleach cosplay in your room. There aren't any conventions right now, so that's a bit odd, but not so quick. Perhaps she's going to a private cosplay party. That would make sense, but why the hell is she in my room? That's probably what this Ishigo here thought when he was stopped by this girl that claims to be Rukia. But it turns out, she isn't cosplaying at all and dead serious about her eternal fights versus hollows. She's even talking about how she places lost souls into Soul Society. Okay? Now that's a bit weird. If something like this happens to you, it stays with you for some time. First of all, as weird as this event might be, if something like this happens to you, I think you should make sure that this girl isn't an escapee from a mental hospital. The last thing you want is facing a schizophrenic tsundere with a real katana on her back, claiming she's hunting hollows. At this moment, Ishigo runs downstairs only to witness this. You would normally be quick in giving your best friend a call and tell him what the f is going on right now. I mean, where does this even lead to? But before you can figure out what is actually happening, a full-sized hollow appears. What? At this point, you start questioning your own sense of reality. Did you really just project your own schizophrenic tendencies onto this innocent cosplayer? You go mentally through all possible explanations. The most plausible explanation is, you forgot to take off your nerf gear. You try to log out, but that would be a joke. Suddenly the view starts to blur and you find yourself spending a fortune on a virtual idyllic nature lodge, planning ahead a family with your 16-year-old online girlfriend. What is happening? Before you can understand what is happening, the giant hollow punches you 15 feet across the air, leaving you speechless. The idea that you somehow became the real Ishigo Kurosaki in whatever dimension you exist in is slowly creeping up in your mind. Perhaps all of your dreams came true and you were manifested into a real anime world. And as circumstances would have it, it was the Bleach universe. Sick. In any way, let's assume for now that all of this is as it seems and you became the Ishigo in this dimension. This is a hollow. A hollow is an evil turned soul of a dead person. When people die, they normally go to Soul Society, a place like heaven minus the angels plus sword-wielding psychos. But some people die with a grudge or unfinished business. Imagine dying and leaving back your daughter or son, or dying on the same day you found your spouse cheating on you. In such cases, the soul of the deceased person can't go over to the Soul Society naturally. It is somewhat stuck in our world. That wouldn't be a big issue in itself, but those souls turn slowly into hollows after time passes. Once they turn into hollows, there is no way back and they start harming humans and other souls. The only place hollows are able to traverse to is our world, the human realm, and the hollow world, or also called Hueco Mundo. Hollows pose a threat to humans as well as souls. They feed off of them to prolong their existence and to get more powerful. And possibly because souls taste awesome, maybe? The only way to prevent lost souls from turning into hollows is to manually free them from its burden and place it into the Soul Society directly. That is where shinigamis come into play. On one hand, they detect lost souls and release them into the Soul Society before they turn into hollows, and on the other hand, they actively fight hollows. A hollow can't be seen by ordinary people. The reason Ishigo can see them indicates that he has a lot of suppressed spiritual power, or maybe he just needs to have a girl. In any way, the only way to successfully win against a hollow is by cutting through its mask, which sits usually on top of its body in front of its face. This results in the hollow to be purified and its original soul can be transported into Soul Society. During this fight, Rukia gets injured and is thus unable to continue fighting the hollow. That's pretty shitty, but of course she has a plan. The idea is to stab you into your chest with her katana, or also called senpakuto. With this method, she can transfer her shinigami powers temporarily onto you, meaning she can sit back and relax and you have to do her job. Great. Now, first of all, finding a random girl in my room pretending to be Rukia and then pressing me into getting stabbed in my chest so I can do her job? I don't know, man. Sounds fishy to me. But seeing a full-sized hollow that seems to be real with all its special effects, I mean, that's pretty convincing. Besides, my family's in immediate danger, so let's do it. Let's get the chest piercing going. That worked better than expected, huh? How do we go from here? Well, the next morning when Ishigo wakes up, he seems to be the only one remembering the incident from last night. His two sisters and his dad don't seem to remember anything. Everything seems to be pretty normal, apart from that massive hole in the house, of course. Everything is fine until Rukia joins Ishigo's class and claims to be the new transfer student. Looks like we aren't done yet. So here's the deal. On the rooftop, she tells us that from now on we must fulfill her role as a substitute shinigami. That's pretty cool, can't deny that, but why would we want to fight massive monsters without getting any sort of compensation? It seems like a pretty unbalanced deal here. Besides, I'm still not convinced that my last acid trip wear it off yet. Anyway, for now, it seems we do have to fight hollows, but apparently our new shinigami powers attract powerful hollows from all over the place, putting our friends and family into a not so nice spot. We have three options here. First, this fake Rukia and her madness. That's all just way too weird to be true. We continue our lives as if nothing happened, risking the well-being of everyone around us. Or secondly, we agree to fight hollows but prefer to do so from out of town, so our loved ones won't become collateral damage if things won't go straight. The only downside with this is, if something unexpected happens, which it always does, we aren't able to intervene in time, making this option worse than option 1. Leaves us only the third option, fighting the hollows for Rukia in our neighborhood. But for that, we need training. Wonderful, I think that should suffice. I think we are able now to fight giant monsters with magic powers that feed off of lost souls. Let's see how this goes, but before that, we get to meet another cosplayer. Great, another cosplayer on a trip. Or is it really me that is going nuts here? Well, it doesn't really matter because a Renji cosplayer can't be sane to begin with. Let me make this short side note on what is happening in this scene so you can understand the plot of the movie too. This is Renji. He's another shinigami and has a hot temper. His duty is to bring back Rukia since she broke the rules by giving Ichigo her powers. In this scene, Ichigo pretends to not know who Rukia is or what this red-haired dude is talking about. And I think this is the best way to react. At this point, we still don't know enough about shinigamis, their hierarchies, or anything else that is going on really. All we know is a powerless shinigamis living in our closet, we became substitute shinigamis and we must fight giant monsters called hollows. I think the best option we have right now is to focus on what we know and avoid everything we don't know. Keeping things simple is always a good way to start. The next day, things start to fall in place. Another hollow appears and Rukia uses her soul glove to push Ichigo's shinigami form out of him. Your shinigami form is powerful, remember, but your human form stays weak. So before this rude girl attempts to push through your body to release your other self, wear a helmet. A grown-up body that falls over like a sack full of potatoes bears a high risk of serious head injury. You don't want to become a shinigami by murdering your true self, right? So Ichigo storms over to rescue the soul of that little boy. And as luck would have it, we are facing a giant hollow spider, of course. As I have mentioned before, the only way to win against the hollow is to cut through their mask. Any other damage performed won't suffice. Ichigo struggles a lot here, even though this is a low-class hollow. It shows that he hasn't trained sufficiently at this point. Therefore, fighting hollows in our current state is pretty reckless and rather dangerous. We won't be helping anyone by getting eaten up by random hollows in the neighborhood. So either we train more, or we find a better solution. What I mean is, when Renji comes into the scene to defeat the hollow, he attacked us and Rukia too. Like I've mentioned before, Rukia broke the law by giving us her powers. We on the other hand didn't know jack shit about what was happening in the first place. All we knew was there is a cosplayer in our room, a hollow appeared, and we suddenly became shinigamis. Therefore, the simplest and most effective way at this moment would be to talk. Open your mouth and explain what happened. Entering a fight against a shinigami that has defeated the hollow you struggled with in a split second is just a bad idea. Because part of the job of a shinigami is to protect humans, so it would make sense to engage in a conversation first, rather than start a seemingly hopeless fight. Look at it like this. All you want is for your friends and family members to be safe. That you are being targeted by giant monsters and shinigamis at the same time is a complete accident or misunderstanding at best. The best way to beat this threat is to explain thoroughly what happened. That gives you a fair chance to solve this issue without a needless fight. Because the best way to win a fight is to win before you fight. Yeah, I've read The Art of War, Sun Tzu. Actually, Rukia is trying exactly what I've just said. She tries to explain everything to her elder brother, who by the way is a captain and a very high-ranking shinigami. In fact, he's one of the Gotei 13, of which each has his own field of responsibility. The Gotei 13 are captain and leaders of, kind of military fractions and stuff. They're very powerful. Very, very powerful. Renji is his lieutenant and rookie and aspirant to become his successor or something similar. In this scene, he tells her to retake her powers from Ishigo before the next full moon. If she doesn't, well then it's lights out for both. The only catch is, if she retakes her powers while our spiritual pressure is low, we will die. Leaves us only the option to regain our spiritual powers. I have a few things in mind, but I don't want this video to become a semen retention video that promises you superhuman powers within 30 days if you follow my exact routine for 1 month for only $9.99. In any way, we are in a shit position here and our options are scarce. You can't hide because they can sense you pretty much anywhere. You can't fight because you're too weak. And the last online course you bought on how to release your hidden energies turned out to be a scam. So, we don't really have good options here if you're honest. What would you do in this position? How would you build up your spiritual pressures? What I would do is visit Urahara-san. That seems to be the single best option available in this moment. For those who don't know who he is an ex-shinigami who was exiled for whatever reason. He lives in our neighborhood, lucky us, and manages somewhat like a black market for people concerned with souls, etc. Whoever that is. If anyone knows what to do, it's this guy. According to the movie, he can't really help us though, and I have to admit, it seems like a pretty hopeless situation. It seems we have to use different tactics this time. So, I have recently read a book about how to negotiate, and it turns out the best way to receive what you want is to give what the other side wants first. That, according to the book, sparks up a sense of guilt and gratitude in the receiver's mind, making him more receptive to your requests. But what the hell would a shinigami want, right? Probably not Swiss chocolate balls or a cool new tech gadget. It has to be something meaningful, something impressive. And red apples? I don't think they will work on this shinigami here. So here's a not so serious question for you. What present would you make to Byakuya Kuchiki? Let me know in the comments. That's a tough question, I know, but you have all the time you want, really. Anyway, what Ishigo decides to do is the following. He promises to hunt down the Grand Fisher, a powerful hollow that has escaped the grip of shinigamis for 54 years. That's a pretty smart move. Looks like he has read Dale Carnegie too, huh? And it worked. The other side accepts Ishigo's request and lets him have his chance. That went better than expected, huh? Where's the catch? Now, the next challenge to solve would be how to beat the Grand Fisher. But for that, you must understand what the Grand Fisher actually is. So the Grand Fisher is a powerful hollow who has eaten dozens of other hollows, becoming more powerful each time thereafter. One of his special abilities is that he can take on any form that he wants, including humans. This makes it easy for him to prey on other hollows or people with high spiritual energy. In fact, it turns out that it was the Grand Fisher who has killed Ishigo's mother all those years ago. But before we can do what we said we would do, killing the Grand Fisher to be spared by the other two shinigamis from before, we need more training. Let's go! How about that? All you need is a giant sword, 2 wood sticks, and an old tire to become the next Ishigo Kurosaki in a week. We know about the Saitama challenge. How about a 30-day Ishigo challenge? Anyone? Feel free. You don't have to pay me, it's alright. It's alright. On the following day, Ishigo and his family are going to visit his mother's grave. It's been 9 years since she's been killed. Ishigo only recently realized that it was the Grand Fisher who killed her. I mean, he didn't really know about hollows and their abilities until recently. He could see ghosts ever since he was a kid, but that's about it. So when they are about to arrive at the cemetery, his sister gets attacked by, of course, the Grand Fisher. Luckily, we have invested the past 7 days to train like the ultimate killer machine. This won't be a problem. Now, first of all, one of the tactics I'd recommend is don't run into the city to fight a giant hollow. Instead, try to move away from busy places. I know that isn't really obvious and quite difficult to figure out, but that's why I'm here, right? To give you the best tips based on profound and in-depth observations. While Ishigo tries to avoid further destructions because he was an idiot, we get a cameo from Uryu Ishida. He's a Quincy. Now if you don't know what this is, don't worry. Just think in terms of a wizard. or watch the anime or read the manga. Really, seriously, just it's a great thing. Anyway, it looks pretty f***ing cool in live action format, not gonna lie. So they fight the Grand Fissure together and Ishigo gets the chance to strike one last time, causing the hollow to finally decay. But the victory doesn't last long. Uryu gets stabbed from the back by Renji and Ishigo gets involved in a pretty heavy fight with both shinigamis. Looks like honor is foreign to them, huh? We just defeated a hollow they were incapable defeating for 54 years and this is how we're thanked. That's up, bro. What the hell? Renji activates his Truth Senpaku form, also called Shikai. His katana in this form resembles something like a whip that can extend itself and fight on a long-range basis. This is a second form of its Senpaku and much more powerful than the original, ordinary katana form. Of course, we didn't learn anything of that sword yet and are pretty much boxed around the ear. But we haven't defeated Zangetsu yet. In fact, we don't even know who the it is. So even though Ishigo here seems to be somewhat able to measure himself with Renji, as soon as he engages in a fight with Byakuya, it's pretty hopeless. As you can see, beating Byakuya or any of the Gotei 13 without even knowing the name of our sword, well, leave that to the idiots. The only reasons Ishigo survived this encounter was because he was so determined to keep fighting even though he was long defeated. I guess that somehow impressed Byakuya and he spared him because of that. Rukia retakes her powers. All of a sudden that's apparently no problem, right? Thanks girl, how about next time you don't wait until I'm on the verge of death because your cocky brother is an asshole, Jesus. In any way, they travel back to the Soul Society and we finally wake up from our massive, pretty heavy acid trip. If you've made it this far, you should subscribe. Thanks.